good to be with you this morning. And we have Amber, Julie, Jill, Bonnie, Billy, Terry Berry, Curtis, Sister Sheba, Dale, Mary Bell, Sally, and Marty with us today. Thank you so much for being here this morning. The church that love is building, CSA. And so I want to start off today just by dropping into our love, dropping into our hearts. And I want to invite you right now, as a church, we're a church of action. And I want to send our love right now to the city of Atlanta. That needs our love, that needs that healing energy, that wise energy, that unifying energy of love. I just invite you right now to see it, to see Atlanta unifying, healing, and reaching higher ground. And see that love energy spreading across the United States. Right this moment. We are agents of change and healing. That's what we do here at CSA. And I know we've been feeling the feels. I woke up this morning feeling the feels. I was practically in tears. Because there's only one of us. And this high emotion is running through each and every person on the planet right now. If you feel the feels right now, just type it in. I feel the feels. Or throw up a heart so we know that we're not alone. Because it's in our unity that we're going to get through this together. That's our strength. Yes? If you agree, say yes. Right there. Type it in, yes. So in my talk today, I realize that we have heavy hearts, that there's a lot of change going on, that we may feel some sense of concern or fear, anxiety. Some of us are waking up. I know I'm waking up. I might feel a sense of shame or maybe even regret. These are heavy energies, but we can't let them stop us. We've got to keep moving. And so in today's message, I'm going to talk about some actions that we can take to be part of the answer, part of the change, part of what is seeking to be born on the planet right now. You know, we can trust this law of life. We can trust the discontent we feel to be directive and to turn us into the direction we need to go for all of humanity. I want to start with some wisdom from Rumi, a Persian poet and mystic. He says, try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come? The one to come. You know, I was just listening to Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith the other day, and he talks about that this time of change, that a new world is being birthed. A new world, that the old world of me, myself, and I is falling away, and this new world of oneness, of we, of us, of ours, is being born. In fact, he called it the apocalypse. And apocalypse in Greek simply means disclosure of knowledge. That the veils of separation are lifting. That's what we're experiencing right now. And we're seeing things on a level we've never seen them before, and we're feeling them on a level we've never felt them before. But we know, as metaphysicians, that this awareness and these feelings, that they're creative, that everything is from the inside out. And that's the good news, that this discomfort is birthing much needed change in the world right now. And so we got to push through some of our uncomfortableness. You know, I named my talk today, Signs, Revelations, and What's Next. And so I'm going to talk about some signs of this new baby world that's coming through, that higher ground that gives us hope. And then I'm going to talk about some revelations, some things we need to look at, some blind spots that we may have, so that we can fully participate in this birth. And then I'm going to talk about what's next, the baby that's coming, to keep that high vision so that our feet keep moving. There are signs that we're moving to higher ground. I want to share some of those with you. You know, signs for me are so important. I'm not a winter person. You know, the days are dark, it's rainy, I get depressed. But I always look to the pine trees and the redwoods for the changing of the season, for a sign. You know, the branches have those dark green needles on them, but when spring is just about to come at the end, is some new growth, the right light green new growth, a sign that spring is coming, that light is coming, that sun and warmth is coming. And so I want to share these signs with you to help lift your heart that these changes are truly moving to higher ground. You know, if we just go back a couple years, 2017, we saw more women run for office and vote than we've ever seen. We saw people filling the streets around the world to stand up for women's rights and to speak out against sexual harassment. And that wave, that whole change is still going. We're seeing policies, procedures, trainings, conversations around how to better the lives for women. New growth, new growth. And with racial injustice and the new growth that we're seeing, I just saw in the New York Times, it said the headline was, "From Cosmetics to NASCAR, calls for racial justice are spreading." That's what we want to spread. I think it should have said, the subtext should have said, it's about time, right? It's about time. Even our language is shifting. The Merriam-Webster dictionary is revising its word for racism, and it's adding that it can be systemic. And you might say, well, so what? It's a word. Words have power. The way we view our society and what we value, we are reflected in our words, the words that we use. I mean, the Eskimos have 50 words for snow. They have to, because their whole society depends on what is showing up in the weather patterns. And our society depends on the words that we're using and the accuracy of what we're seeing. New growth. Minneapolis and New York, they've banned chokeholds. Dallas and Chattanooga, Tennessee, have a new duty to intervene policy in their police departments. So if a cop is witnessing another cop exerting undue, excessive force, he has to get in there and intervene. What a beautiful policy. What if we had that all over the United States and the world? On the bestsellers list right now, we have How to Be an Anti-Racist and White Fragility. Books several years ago wouldn't have made the list. See, our consciousness has turned now to address the problem, to try and heal it, to get more information. And even here at CSA, we're offering the 21-day Racial Equity Challenge, and we have over 200 people signed up. Wow. Wow, amazing. I am so excited. And I'm going to be one of the facilitators. I hope if you haven't signed up and your heart is being called, that you'll join us. It's a safe, loving, supportive space. So there's one more green branch of growth I want to share. And it's a public statement by a public figure. And I'm not going to tell you who it is. And if you know, don't put it in the chat. But if you don't know, I want you to guess as I'm reading this. Throw in the name of who you think wrote this and send it out. And I'm not going to say the wife's name because that'll give it away. Our wife and I are anguished by the brutal suffocation of George Floyd and disturbed by the injustice and fear that suffocate our country. Yet we have resisted the urge to speak out, because it is not a time for us to lecture. It is a time for us to listen. It is for America to examine our tragic failures, and as we do so, we will also see some redeeming strengths. It remains a shocking failure that so many African Americans, especially young African men, are harassed and threatened in their own country. This tragedy, along with a series of similar tragedies, raises a long overdue question. How do we end systemic racism in our society? The only way to see ourselves in a true light is to listen to the voices of so many who are hurting and grieving. Those who set out to silence those voices do not understand the meaning of America or how it becomes a better place. This was written June 2nd, 2020. Who do you think said this? Put it in the chat. It was George W. Bush. Now, I can't believe I'm standing on a stage reading that and saying his name. It shows that he's listened, that he's grown. We see that bright green growth. And for me, it really lifted my heart up to see that and to read that. And there's more, and I invite you to go on the internet and read the entire piece. And I know that the work that we're doing, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Because the healing that's needed, it's needed in so many places. See, the problem's in everything. It's in our education, it's in our work environments, it's in our social structures. We've got a long road ahead, but we can do this, and we can do it together. So as I've begun this journey of unfolding and awakening and joining this new birth, this new earth, I've had some revelations about myself and about our spiritual community. And I think it's important to share those things. I call these mind traps that some of us have fallen into. I know I've fallen into them. And I'm a good person. And I know everybody here watching is a good person. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes we have to do more to understand what's gotten into our subconscious. So the first mind trap I want to talk about is this tendency to label ourselves in a way so that we know we're not part of the problem, right? I experienced this a couple weeks ago after I'd given a talk, and I was talking to a very wonderful, warm, beautiful white man in the church who was fixing the fixtures, and we got on the subject of Black Lives Matter, and he goes, well, I'm not a racist. I'm not a racist. Almost, the subtext was, I'm good, I'm not contributing to the problem. And I think he really meant that. But the issue goes much deeper than that. We know in our minds we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, right? And that things slip in there, little programs, little beliefs. And when we work on some of our limiting beliefs, like if we're having a money problem, we go, well, I wonder what's keeping me from having more abundance in my life. So we go and we try to find what that limiting belief is that we're not aware of, that got slipped in there. And so what I'm aware of now is that some things got slipped in my mind that are really contributing to the problem. You know, when I was growing up and I was in school, I never questioned why they didn't teach Black history. I didn't even know there was Black history. And so that's just one of my blind spots. So I'm wondering, what other ones do I have in there? And so it's our work to bravely look at those and start to root them out of our subconscious and start to replace them with the higher truth. The second mind trap is just this reaction sometimes we have to uncomfortable things that we may not understand. You know, when Black Lives Matter first came out, I have to admit, I said all lives matter. All lives matter. But see, I didn't understand what was being told to me. I didn't have enough education to know what was really being said. That Black Lives Matter was a call for help. Help. People in the movement would never tell you that all lives don't matter. They agree. They're just saying our lives are under attack and to help us. Here's a wonderful analogy that I saw that really helped me. We agree all trees are important. All forests matter. Yes, they're the lungs of the earth. But when the Amazon was on fire, we're all running with our cups of water to put it out. And our Black people, our Black brothers and sisters are on fire. And they're asking for help. That's what that is. And we can do that. We can do that. The last mind trap, and we know about this in our spiritual community, I know I've done it, it's a spiritual bypass. So sometimes we don't want to feel the feels. We don't want to feel the uncomfortableness, so we just hop over it with a little bit of spiritualism. Things like, it's all good in God. It's all good. I know I've said it. It's all good in God. And now we've just missed an opportunity for our discomfort to direct us. And the high truth is, if it's all good in God and we're a piece of God, we're the hands and the feet and the mind of God. We are the ones that are going to bring the good through our actions, through our changes, through our responding to this discomfort. Here's what Ernie says about this. He says, it's a popular belief that those who practice the science are a class of people who declare that everything's perfect, when, as a matter of fact, everything in the objective experience of race, that's what Ernie calls the world, the objective experience of race, is not perfect, and indeed is far from perfect. This popular idea of the practice of the spiritual science is entirely a misconception. A religious scientist is not one who assures themselves that wrong is right. Now, why am I saying this? I'm not saying this to shame or blame. I'm just saying we need to wake up to some of these and not fall in these mind traps. And if we find ourselves doing it, to make a course correction, that's all. Make a course correction. Get some education. Maybe come to the 21-day equity challenge and make some amends. I know I'm going to do that. I've made all those mistakes. But that doesn't make us a bad person. It can't. We are the love and perfection of the divine. It's just our human self that we need to work with. Yes? Yes. So what's next? What's happening with all of these changes that are going on? It's a new world. We are birthing a new world. And I actually believe it's the second coming of Christ. And that Christ is not a person, but a consciousness of oneness. So as these veils of separation lift, we see it. We see the oneness that we are. We see that we are all cells in a body called humanity. And just like our own physical body, if there's some cells that are not well, the other cells in the body rise up to heal it because it realizes its interdependence, that if the body's gone, they're gone. Right? That's what this oneness is pushing through and helping us see as these veils are lifted. Here's what Ernie says about oneness. He says, there is one body and one spirit. The entire creation is the body of God, who is one with spirit. And within this body of God are all other bodies. See, we can't look at the sky and the trees and the birds and us and see anything outside of this one body of God, this oneness. Because when we really get oneness, when we get it deeply in our spirit and in our mind and in our actions, we can't other anymore. We can't put anyone outside our heart because there's nothing outside of God. We can't exploit the earth because it's the body of God. See, we need this oneness to be born. We need it to be born. And the discomfort that we're feeling, that's the birthing pains for us to participate in the oneness. Right now, this world, this new world, it's in the birth canal. And when the baby is in the birth canal, we gotta push. We gotta push past our fear, push past our resistance, push past the voices in our head. We gotta push for our black brothers and sisters. We gotta push for our brown brothers and sisters. We gotta push for gay people, lesbians. We gotta push for transgender people. We gotta push for people with mental illness. We gotta push for our Muslim brothers and sisters. We must push, and we can. For we are fueled by the divine spirit that created everything. Yes, we can do this. Because we're birthing heaven on earth. That's what we're doing. So let us turn our eyes to the new green growth, just enough to keep us out of despair and keep our feet moving. And let us listen, like George W. Bush said, listen to the people that are hurting. They're going to help show the way to what needs to be healed. Yes. And let us remember that we can do this and to push. And I want to read a poem that summarizes what I believe is happening right now. The poem is called It Has Begun. It was written April 2020 by Miguel Carvejo. The dawn of the kingdom of God, the new heaven and new earth, the shift of the ages, the return to love, the prodigal son, the end of the dream, the return to original design, the end to time as we have known it, the return to reality, the great awakening, unity consciousness, the time of Christ, the great adventure beyond description, but not beyond feeling and experience and knowing. Our final journey back to oneness, back to God, back to love, the final frontier. It invites us, it needs us, it calls us now. All are called, all are chosen, but only each one can choose herself or himself to join willingly. For together, in unity and relationship, can we fulfill the reason for our creation, the reason for our purpose. What is simply obvious, what was always inevitable, the only certainty, the new, it is here. It has begun. Hallelujah. Thank you so much. So let's take this message into prayer. So I'm just knowing that we move and breathe and have our very being in this one body of God that is fueled by the spirit of love, that is fueled by the spirit of wisdom, that is fueled by the spirit of power to bring about this great shift and this great birth of the divine oneness that is the truth of us. And I am knowing and speaking my word that each and every person called responds for what theirs is to do, to bring this great piece of the divine that we know exists into manifestation, into being, into our human experience. And I give thanks for being on the planet at this time and having the opportunity to participate in this monumental shift of the ages that humankind has never known. I give thanks for waking up. I give thanks for this place called CSA. I give thanks for all that are generating the knowledge and the support and the structures we need to bring this baby through. I give thanks. I know that this word does not come back to me void, and it is already done perfectly in the mind of good, perfectly in the mind of God. And together we say, and so it is.